opposite of this consensus with the Chinese is America First policy, where we put forward policies that make our people stronger, that make our people better, and then we diplomatically deal with the fallout and try to find common ground after that. President Trump put forward a very aggressive America First policy, and that's why China wouldn't fly balloons over America or wouldn't embarrass us by coming to Alaska as they did and lecturing us on our human rights record under the Trump administration. They've done all those things during the Biden administration.
Except that China did fly spy balloons over the United States during the Trump presidency. Look, this whole balloon situation has inflated out of hand. But let me give you the details. A Chinese spy balloon was shot down over the weekend off the coast of South Carolina after traveling through the continental United States airspace. And this is just the latest case of a balloon from China traveling across the United States, because according to one senior Defense Department official, over the weekend, he claimed there have been 3 other additional balloons that have come across and into the United States airspace from the prior administration, the Trump administration, according to the senior Defense Department official. So that very aggressive America First policy didn't seem to work, because you have a senior defense official reporting that there have been 3 additional cases during the Trump presidency. Also, just some food for thought. If I lived outside the United States and I saw an American leader screaming at the top of his lungs, "America first, America first," that might motivate me as a leader of another country to actually want to spy on America more, because I would perceive that America first cry as kind of a threat. So actually it might do the opposite of what the Trump administration's claiming they did. But I mean, conservatives were always going to politicize this, no matter what. Even if the balloon didn't enter American airspace, they were always going to find a way to go after Biden, politicize this issue, and turn it into somehow his fault and that they could have done it better. Because they have no interest in governing. None whatsoever. They only care about the theatrics that are going to feed their base, because that's what they want. Just to own the libs and stick it to them. In fact, I think Republicans are actually using this whole balloon situation as a distraction from the amazing jobs report that just came out under the Biden administration, where the US economy added 500,000 new jobs, and actually the employment rate fell to 3.4%, which is actually even lower than projected 3.6%. So I think that they're using this as a distraction from the great news that is Biden's plan on reinvigorating the economy and actually bringing jobs back to America.
Well, that's just the thing. It sounds simple, right. I suppose, if you don't think about it for more than a second. But this thing was above American airspace in terms of where most of the aircraft fly, and we have the most complicated national airspace in the world. This thing is larger. The metal equipment there is larger than a bus. When they did shoot it down, the debris field was about 7 miles. And so the concern, of course, is how do you do it in a way that absolutely minimizes the danger to American lives on the ground.
But back to the balloon and the events that unfolded last weekend. Everyone is an expert. Everyone's an expert. Apparently, when it comes to shooting an enemy spy balloon out of the sky, conservatives claim that they can just do it better, that Biden didn't do it good enough and that they could have just done it better. Everyone's an expert. Everyone's an expert. Did you all know that this balloon was the size of 3 buses together? Yeah, I think that there needs to be way more thought that goes into shooting down an enemy spy balloon that is that big. Like, there would have to be coordinated processes. You can't just shoot it down over the mainland America, because you have to think of the fallout coming from the trail of debris. Based on the size and these obvious factors, I think that Biden's skepticism, along with the Pentagon and their approach to be safe, but doing it as quick as possible, was actually incredibly warranted. Biden and the Pentagon needed time to assess whether the possible fallout from the aircraft in determining whether or not shooting it down out of the sky was the safest means for disposal. Thereby, shooting it down off the coast of South Carolina seemed like a pretty safe bet to bring it down safely while not harming American civilians. And of course, Republicans are gonna go after Biden's actions no matter what they are, just because that has become the Republican mentality. Just constantly question every single thing Democrats do. I do have one question though. How is it that the United States couldn't shoot down this enemy spy balloon over land if they're bound to be underdeveloped areas in which they could safely shoot it down and have a trail of debris that would not harm property? You would think that that kind of land in place would exist. So it does beg me to ask the question if they could have taken it down over land. And especially with the 2023 new military budget, we are spending $858 billion just this year for our military spending. So how can we not use some of that money to invest in a technology like this? It leads me to wonder, what do you think? Put your answers to that question below in the comments. I'm really interested to see what you have to say. Also, another question, how would Trump have handled this? I'm genuinely curious. Well, according to one Twitter user, Ron Filipkowski, says Trump would have done it personally with a Christian space laser. They aren't quite as effective as the Jewish ones, but it was just a balloon. Honestly, I loved this answer so much. Jokes aside, my two biggest takeaways are that number one, the Chinese government is going to continue to spy on America using these spy balloons because according to the latest examples under the Trump administration and now under the Biden administration, it's clear that this is probably a trend that's going to continue. And honestly, we're probably spying on them too. So let's not let ourselves out of the water here. And number two, this is just another example that proves the certainty of the right wing to constantly attack Democrats over anything and politicize anything, even a balloon, out of all things. So, because they have no interest in governing. They have no interest in governing. They just use this as red meat for their base because all their base cares about is Democrat tears, owning the libs, sticking it to them in DC. And that's it here on the breakdown. Please make sure to subscribe down below. There's a lot of amazing videos on this channel, so you don't want to miss out. Also, you can find me on TikTok and on YouTube at the links below in the description. If you see me and recognize me from TikTok, please say hello. Also, don't forget to answer the questions I posed in the video in the comments. What do you think?